All right, go ahead. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2020 Komen MBC Virtual Impact Series event titled Living with MBC, Patient and Provider Perspective. My name is Tony Lee and I am the Navigation and Programs Manager with Komen Charlotte. We are so excited to have you join us for the fourth event in the series, and we wish we could all be together and in person. If you missed the previous three sessions hosted by our partner affiliates, Komen Atlanta, Komen North Carolina Triangle to the Coast, and Komen Puget Sound, the recordings can be found here in Whova by visiting the Agenda tab to the left of your screen and scrolling back to the individual dates of the events. I would also like to take a minute to acknowledge that today is National Metastatic Breast Cancer Awareness Day, and we would like to honor all of those we have lost to this disease. Before we begin our program, I would like to first give a thank you to our sponsors of the event for their support, Eli Lilly, Pfizer, and to our local sponsor, Immunomedics. I encourage you all to visit their exhibitor booths and the sponsor center after the question and answer portion of the event today. We have a great program in store for you, and now I will turn it over to our moderator, award-winning news anchor, Molly Grantham, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Tony, thank you. All of you who are watching, thank you for being a part of this event today. And because we are virtual and because so many of us have these bizarre worlds that we're living in, let me go ahead and be completely transparent and say I've got homeschool going on in the background with a fourth grade and kindergarten. So if that comes tearing through the room, I apologize in advance. And also, I have this beside me. So we have a lot going on, but this event and metastatic breast cancer is a cause very near and dear to my heart personally. My mom died of metastatic breast cancer 3.5 years ago, and that was the second time she battled. I was 12 when she first was diagnosed with breast cancer, beat that, and 25 years later was re-diagnosed, and then lived with it for a while. As we all know, metastatic breast cancer can be livable, but not curable. And so to all the thrivers that are out there, we commend you. And I hope you feel so much love and so much support, because that's really what these kinds of events are all about, to educate, to talk about some of the various integrative medicines, which we're going to get up with Dr. Chasse Bailey-Dorton in a bit, and certainly hear some stories from you guys. And I say this in advance, we have it all set up where this will happen. If you have questions, make sure you get them out there, and they will be texted to me. And when we get to the end, we will ask them for you. So hopefully this is as involved and wonderful as it can be if we can't be in person. We really, really welcome all of you here. So Charmaine, thanks for hopping on, but let me go ahead and ask all of the panelists. Charmaine, we'll let you get settled first. And we'll start with Dr. Chasse Bailey-Dorton. Just introduce yourselves. And then after you're done, Dr. Bailey-Dorton, I'll call on someone else so everybody watching knows who you guys are and what you're all about.
So thanks, Molly. As mentioned, I'm Dr. Chasse Bailey-Dorton. I'm currently Chief of Integrative Oncology at Levine Cancer Institute. We'll go into a little bit more about what that's about in a minute. I'll send it back to you, Molly.
Okay, Dar, I know you are a thriver. Tell us a little bit about your story.
I was diagnosed whenever I was 53 and in 2006 with my stage 2 breast cancer. Had lumpectomy at that time and 8 weeks of radiation. 5 years I was on letrozole. At 10 years I had a big party thinking, oh, I'm cured. And 14 pain across my chest and was rushed to the hospital thinking that it was a heart attack. And instead, by the end of that day, after numerous tests, I was told that I had metastatic breast cancer and it had metastasized to my bones. So I am now, I am HRPR positive, HER2 negative. I'm taking letrozole, and I get a monthly Xgeva shot, and I also take Ibrance.
It's a long list.
Yeah.
It's a long list.
Well, there's a bunch of other drugs, but those are the ones that are main.
Those are just the main ones you like to shout out on the billboard. Yeah. Got it. Stephanie, tell us about you.
So my name is Stephanie, and I'm from the Charlotte area. And I was diagnosed at 23 with breast cancer in 2007. In remission for about 2.5 years. And then when I was 25 in 2010, I found out that it had metastasized to my bone. And my doctor, she actually just kind of took a chance to view my scans where we were doing blood work, and she had seen a tumor marker raise. And this by chance was, willing to do a PET scan, and that's when they found the bone metastasis. I like to think that it was caught early. And so for 10 years that I've been living with metastatic breast cancer. I went through chemo and radiation. I went through chemo the first with breast cancer, and then I had radiation, and I also had hormone therapy with the breast cancer and the metastatic. I had a hysterectomy to help treat that estrogen from pumping into the breast cancer. Let's see, I'm currently on Faslodex. I get injections every 28 days. So I get those. I used to be on a bone strengthener, so Faslodex and a bone strengthener was my second line of defense in the past 10 years. So that's good to have those years with it being stable. So I'm happy to share that, and just making it every day.
I think everyone probably listening to you is thinking how young you are, and to be diagnosed, you said at 23, but then to have metastatic at 25 and to have a hysterectomy and now be 36, yes. Right? You said, so been living with that for more than 10 years is a whole lot. And we really, really appreciate you being here, Stephanie.
No problem.
Thank you.
I've had some good things come out of everything. Told that I wouldn't have children, but I did, and I do. So
that's like the best thing we could hear, really. I mean,
I like to share that because it's one of the best things in my life. So
you don't let anyone tell you no. I think all of us, no matter what the world tells you, you can try and make it for your positive, right? Make it work for you. So that's good. Charmaine, beautiful there in pink. Tell us your story. Welcome. Take yourself off mute first. Oh, wait, there you go. There you go.
Hey, hi, ladies. Hello. Well, I was diagnosed with inflammatory breast cancer in 2013 at the age of 42. So I was considered a young survivor as well, with neither history on either side of my family. At first, when I saw the change in my breast, I didn't think breast cancer. I thought it was just thickening of the skin. I thought I got bit by a bug, because it was different. I always thought that it was a lump that you would feel, in which it wasn't. And I had just came back from vacation, so I didn't think much of it. But long story short, January of 2013, that's when I had my mammogram done. And then from there, I had an ultrasound, and still not thinking breast cancer, because I knew there was some change. And then I was told that I had breast cancer. So it's like everything went from one thing to the next. With that, I had chemo, followed by no radiation with surgery. And the type of breast cancer I had was HER2 positive, ER/PR positive. So I did 6 rounds of chemo once every 3 weeks. And that tumor did shrink. And let me go back. Before that, I had a PET scan done. And then that's when they saw that I had a spot on my liver. So it went from stage 2 to automatic stage 4. So I was told I had metastatic breast cancer. So that's when I began my treatment. So I did my chemo. And then halfway through, they saw that the tumor on my breast and the spot on my liver had disappeared. So I was happy about that. And then from there, so automatically I was still listed as a metastatic breast cancer survivor. I had surgery, reconstructive surgery done. And then 3 years after that, in 2016, with routine scans that I do take, they found a spot under my collarbone. And again, they didn't think, that it was nothing that I needed to be alarmed about. But however, I did go for a biopsy, and they tested it that it was cancerous. So it was a cancer cell that was in my lymph node under my collarbone. So with that being said, I went again for rounds of chemo. I was actually, and then I am on continued there. So that spot did disappear. So I'm on continuous treatment pretty much for the rest of my life. I am doing Herceptin and Perjeta. I was on tamoxifen at first, but when I had the second diagnosis, they took me off tamoxifen. So now I'm on a Remedex. I was taking Lupron shots for about a year, so I no longer take those shots. And so I am a living metastatic breast cancer thriver with no evidence of disease in my body at this point. So I am very grateful and thankful for that. So, and then, I go for treatment still once every 3 weeks, and a lot of the ladies that I meet, that are metastatic, they look at me as inspiration, because they was like, how do you keep moving? And I said, I just be thankful for each and every day. I'm thankful for my life. And I just want to be a message to those that, you could definitely get through this, that you're not going to be in this journey alone. And it doesn't necessarily mean that is the ending of your days. We could live productive, healthy lives, just with a little maintenance. That's what I call it. Because I mean,
Little maintenance.
Yes, I call
It's
myself
like
a
getting our
Bentley.
nails done, right? It's like getting your hair
nails
done.
I said, we gotta, take care of our cars in order for them to run right. So I call my treatments once every 3 weeks maintenance.
It's so much about attitude. I think all three of you would say that. And obviously you guys all have really incredible attitudes.
Yes.
It's good, but no evidence of disease. When you say that, Charmaine, that gets our attention. So NED, that's really good for all of you. I'm going to have you guys, if you're not speaking, put yourselves on mute, and then certainly feel free to chime in. If you want to take it off mute and chime in, you guys are our panelists and everybody watching wants to hear from you. So if someone says something, feel free to chime in, but just to eliminate our background noise a little bit, I'm going to have you keep yourself on mute when you're not speaking. So Dr. Chasse Bailey, let's start with you. You said very quickly what you do, but you're Chief of Integrative Oncology at Levine Cancer Institute. So if you could start by giving all of us, for those who aren't aware, sort of an overview of what integrative oncology really is.
So the best way I say is to explain what I do. So I am a primary care doctor by background. I'm also a 17-year breast cancer survivor. So nobody knows what it's like to have heard those words or gone through chemo or radiation or hormonal stuff unless you've been there. And as we know, we think we're fine one day, and the next day we got thrown into this scary hurricane, more treatments and doctors than anything we wanted to know about in our life. Most things in life, you feel bad. So you go to the doctor, they do something to make you feel better. Sometimes with that initial diagnosis, we don't feel bad, but we face treatment that makes us feel bad. And for me, the initial feeling was, well, wait a minute, I want to know what I can do. I want to know what else is out there. What else can we load this boat with to help my body fight this, to decrease side effects? A fellowship in what's called Integrative Medicine with the Dr. Andrew Weil at University of Arizona. And then I was blessed to come here about 7 years ago to start the program here at LCI. And, part of the problem is there's so much misinformation on the internet. There's always somebody trying to sell us something. All of a sudden, our friends and families are telling us what we should do or shouldn't do. And so I'm here to be a reliable resource for our patients to know what's safe to put in that boat. So it's taking what's got some evidence behind it, whether it's nutrition, supplements, anything else we can load that boat with to help our people go through it. And so I often will meet with a patient at diagnosis and say, okay, here's what we're going to do to get you through chemotherapy and decrease those side effects. Here's nutrition strategies. Here's physical activity strategies. Here's some acupuncture or massage or healing touch to help balance out those side effects of treatment, basically giving them control back. And as scary as it is at diagnosis, sometimes it's scarier at the end of treatment when that fear of recurrence comes back. And you ladies are the face of, the fear of everybody, but you're showing us what it looks like to live with metastatic breast cancer now. Yet you're also still battling the side effects of that treatment, whether it's be the hot flashes, the joint pains, and all these other questions. And so integrative medicine comes along with these complementary therapies to help battle the side effects, to give some control back to those patients.
That's such a good explanation. I had someone one time tell me, and please tell me if this is wrong, but they're like, integrative is basically not the medicines. It's be everything else.
Well,
It's the
yeah,
taking
that's why I
care of
tell
your-
patients, I said, look, I let my surgeons and my oncologists deal with the patient. I mean, the treatment, I want to focus on the patient, body, mind, spirit, everything else that we need to load that boat with.
Yoga, food, acupuncture, all the things
Exactly.
you mentioned.
Exactly.
Yeah, diet,
Exactly.
that's really awesome. You guys, all three of you, Dar and Stephanie and Charmaine, have such a positive attitude, at least today here when we're all dressed up on the call. There are moments, I'm sure, where it's not super positive and it's easy to get yourself into a ditch mentally. What do you say to people on some coping strategies that you guys have learned to be able to navigate the downtimes? Because we all know that not every day is happy. Dar, do you want to start and then we'll just go around?
Yeah. Well, I know, especially the months right after I had gotten my diagnosis, I was just sort of in a real funk. I was in a fog, and I, sat around and sort of had a pity party for a while. And one day I thought, okay, I'm done with this pity party. I need to just get up and do something. I need to have a new purpose in my life. And so I did a lot of research and reading and thinking, and I came down to one word, and that word was joy. And I decided that would be my purpose in life, was to have joy, but not just have it. I wanted to share joy with. So that's what I use for my coping mechanism. And people sometimes will be like, well, you've got metastatic breast cancer. How can you be joyful? But you can be joyful and be sad. You can be joyful and be mad. You can have that joy, can be there all the time. And so what I started to do then was really focus on the joy. And it just opened up a huge other world of opportunity for me. I started 2 different Facebook groups. One is for metastatic breast cancer patients called Making, I always struggle with this, making Our Best MBC Life. I have another one called Choose to Live with Joy. That's just for anybody that wants more joy in their life. I have a YouTube channel, Choose to Live with Joy. And one thing that I was really frustrated with when I was first diagnosed is I wanted to talk to other people that had metastatic breast cancer. And that was going to be a big coping tool for me. And I found out there wasn't a support group in the Charlotte area. So I started a support group. And the magic of COVID has opened up Zoom things for us. So that's been wonderful. And so our group now has grown. It is the whole western part of North Carolina is part of the Charlotte area support group. And we reach down into South Carolina. We can reach people that would not be able to travel to Charlotte to have meetings. So it's been a true joy to be able to be involved with that. And the way, if anybody wants to join the group, we have a Facebook page called the Charlotte Area MBC Support Group.
That's good. That's good to list. So anyone watching can join in.
Yeah, and in the community section on Hoover, or whatever the platform is called here, there are links to all of those things that I talked about. But really, that joy, it's not fake, it's not, you can have joy even though you've got bad outside circumstances, because the joy's inside.
That's such good advice. Don't fake it, like have sincere, find a way to make yourself feel joy. And if you can't get help to do so, because that really drives a lot of people. That's great, Dar. Stephanie, what are some of your coping mechanisms you'd like to share with others that are starting this path of metastatic breast cancer?
For me, and I know it's hard to be positive, but I've tried to stay positive through things. That doesn't mean I don't have bad days or numerous bad days, but when I get through those bad days, for me, it helps because I'm a nature person. I went on some retreats with other survivors and thrivers, and so things like that have really helped me. I've done some acupuncture with Levine and their palliative oncology group. So that was helpful for hot flashes and things. And I think it's good to open up to people. I like to share my story with hopes that, I can give some hope to, longer lifespans and everything for us. And but for me, I think it's mainly been nature, connecting with others. I've made some amazing lifelong friends, and my family has been a big support. So I would say to someone going through this, if you've got the support, let them support you, because that's how they can help you, and that's all they want to do.
That's good too, talking through and asking for help. It's so
Yes,
hard for women
absolutely.
to do, asking for help. Charmaine, what are some of your coping mechanisms that you'd like to share?
So my coping mechanism, although it hit me by surprise and shock, so my attitude was everything. So, I always take any mess that I'm in and turn it into a message. So with that, I said, okay, what I needed to do to get better. So I know for sure my attitude and my faith, I had a lot of love and support from family and friends, but then that became overbearing sometimes because I know they meant well. So I had to find out what I needed to do for me to help myself. So I love fashion. So I said, you know what, I'm going to get up every day, even though I didn't feel like it, I'm going to make myself feel good. I started there. And then I just continued doing the things that I love to do. And that's always entertaining. So I always entertain, have friends over, let them into my life. I didn't exclude anyone. And then the best part of how I got through was an organization called Carolina Breast Friends. So I started coming to the support groups here, connecting with other women of all ages. Because the internet scared me half to death. So I wanted to learn more. And I know everyone's story is different, but it was just a blessing to be able to share we understood the same lingo, the language, we were able to show and tell. And then we had a great mentoring program here. So with all of that helped me, then I knew I needed to give back. So I became a mentor here, and then I started volunteering. And then, I will, attend all these social events, and I just kept going. So I was looking forward to each day just being surrounded by other survivors. And then here I am today. I am the operations manager here working at Carolina Breast Friends. And I made lifelong friendships. But, it was more positive than any negative, other than my hot sweats and little aches and pains here and here. But that was my copingsism. It was just getting to know other women and being an inspiration to others.
You
and
keep saying
keeping
here.
a positive attitude.
You keep saying here. Are you at the Pink House right now, Charmaine?
I am here at the Pink House right now, yes.
So for those who don't know Carolina Breast Friends, the motto is, until there's a cure, there's care. Right. So they have a big
correct.
Pink House in Charlotte on
Yes.
Moorhead Street. And give a shameless plug here. I'm glad you mentioned them. For anyone watching who's not heard of them, I know they want to reach out and touch every single breast cancer fighter in our area. So what do people need to do, Charmaine? Call or go on the website?
Yes, they could visit our website at www.carolinabreastfriends.org. You can see everything there about what we are into. We have over 30 programs each month. We have support groups, educational, nutritional programs. We have well-being programs. You name it, we have it. We have a great mentoring program, or you could give me a call anytime, Monday through Friday, from 10 to about 4. We are doing appointments only at this time. We provide wigs and anything any survivor would need, no matter where they are in their journey. We have prosthesis, mastectomy bras. We have the wigs, hats, and scarves. We have the programs that are now being streamed live on Zoom. So if you're interested in any of the programs, you can visit our calendar. And RSVP, and you will be sent the Zoom link there. So it does not stop. We are here for you at all times. So
all that stuff until
visit our website.
Did you guys just hear that funny noise? Was that in my house? Who knows if it's my house, I'm ignoring it. If it's my house, I'm ignoring it. Until there's a cure, there's care. I'm really glad you mentioned that. And it's great because Komen Charlotte does so much in funding grants for people who are underinsured or uninsured and really need to help find when they need surgeries or getting mastectomies, and then of course a lot of the money goes to research nationally. find a cure. And I love that in Mecklenburg County, we also have this CBF that helps with like the love, right? So we're trying to find a cure, and we're also trying to help those that are battling. And it's just a really good match. There's a lot of great clips, and Charlotte Gojo is another one. So, okay, let's move on to back to you, Dr. Bailey-Dorton. I'm glad you mentioned sort of the things of what integrative medicine and integrative oncology can be. So, you know, it's yoga and it's diet and it's exercise and it's acupuncture, and it's a lot of the things that you maybe don't often think about, but there's this new term I've heard, and I want to know if this falls under your umbrella and what you think about it, and explain it to all of us if you could. Psycho-Oncology. What is
Psycho-Oncology is taking the field of psychology and specifically applying it to the cancer world. And I think our Thrivers have just done a great job of really explaining what that is, because everything that they just talked about has to do with our mind, our body, our emotions. So our Thrivers have just talked about what I describe as the healing power of doing good. Each of them has reached out to help somebody else, and in that process, they've helped themselves. The being authentic with their emotions. You know, it's good to be good and happy, but it's not wrong to be pissed off, mad, angry, scared, and fearful. You know, you don't want to get stuck in those emotions. And then the ability to network with other people going through metastatic breast cancer. So I can come at it with understanding of breast cancer, but I can't come at it with the understanding of metastatic breast cancer. You need to be at the same place with somebody else. So psycho-oncology is specifically addressing these issues. You know, our psychologists give our patients a safe space to talk about some of the issues that you don't necessarily want to tell your family. You know, you need that safe space to process through some of these emotions. How do you process through some of the anxiety, the fear?
Let me cut you off for a second, if you don't mind, Dr. Bailey-Dorton. When you say you don't want to tell your family, I've had a lot of women in the course of my career, as I do a lot of stories with breast cancer fighters and survivors and thrivers. And a lot of women, like more than you might expect, say, I don't want to tell my family this. I don't want to share this part with these people. Why do you find that is?
Well, I think you touched on it earlier too. As women, we have a tough time asking for help sometimes. And we always think we should be able to handle everything going on in the family. And we have a tough time reaching back. I often use the example of when we fly on an airplane, they tell us to put the oxygen mask on ourselves first before we help somebody else. And we're not good at that sometimes. You know, but you're right. I've had patients who don't want to tell anybody in their family the diagnosis. At other times, they don't want to tell them what they're going through because they feel like they've already put too much on them.
Have you three experienced that when you were going through some of the battles?
For me, I know that I worry about my family worrying about me. So I get that. Yeah, for sure. And I've seen someone in psycho-oncology, which has helped also. So.
Yes,
I
connect.
done that too. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dar.
Dar.
I'll moderate. Sorry. Go ahead, Dar. I should be jumping in here. Go ahead.
Yes, I've gotten help otherwise also outside the home, because it is hard to, you know, you don't want to always be saying, oh, I feel horrible today, you know, or I'm really tired and I can't go do this because I'm too tired to go do it, and that kind of thing. And you try to put on that break, or just some days that you just want to say, no, I'm not going to. And so learning how to do that was a big thing for me in getting, you know, therapy, was to learn how to say no to things, because I was always a do, go, goer. And now I've had to back off on a lot of things or change how I'm doing things. So, and you don't want to throw all of that on your family, but then you learn that you do have to throw it on somebody because you can't do it all yourself.
I always say that no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
I'm going to use that. Charmaine, did you struggle with that and leaning on other people?
I did. I had a hard time on leaning on other people because they always would call, how you doing? Oh, I'm doing well, I'm fine. But then I had to, you know, because I'm the oldest of three girls, you know, so I was that older sister. I was brought up, you know, in a strict household. You know, you have to set an example. You have to do this, do that. So I finally, with this experience in my life, this journey I'm on, I learned to allow people to help me. don't have to always be strong. So, you know, allow others help me, ask for it, because I was always told, stop blocking other people's blessings. If they are offering, allow them to help you, because you cannot do everything. So
I've always thought as a woman, we want to be a strong woman, and strong is like this huge compliment we give women. She's such a strong woman. Oh, she's so strong. Well, you know what? Sometimes it's okay to say I need help and I'm not strong. And it's like society and descriptions and words. I love words. I love writing. And I always lean on strong. And I've tried to stop the past 2 years, because strong can be a handicap, right? If we're not asking for help. And let me go ahead and say right now, remind everybody watching, send us your questions. I'm getting a reminder to please remind any participant to ask their questions by going to the sessions Q&A, because we can all talk here forever, and we want to, but we also want to hit on things that you guys are wondering as you watch this, whether you're starting the journey, whether you know someone who's starting the journey, you want help on how to help them, whatever it might be, ask your questions. We've got a great panel here. So go to the sessions Q&A. But let me go back to what we were talking about with that strength and not wanting to ask for help, Dr. Bailey-Dorton. What do you say, because the psycho-oncology you're talking about provides this outlet for people to go there to ask for help, but how do you, and what do those psycho-oncologists, I guess, is that what they're called? Or psychologists in the oncology?
Psychologists or psychiatrists, either one.
Okay, psychiatrists, it's not a specific branch of. So what do the psychiatrists say to the people that are coming to them? What is specific advice you give to encourage people like Charmaine or Stephanie or Dara, or anyone else watching when they're going through bad times, to ask?
Think about going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist is having a problem, but they also are great at teaching us positive traits. How do you build resilience? How do you build optimism? How do you deal with that anxiety and fear? How do you develop those coping strategies? So it's building up those positive psychology strategies. That's how they help. We do a lot of, in integrative, we'll work with journaling with patients. I have an exercise where I've had my patients write a letter to cancer, going through the fear, the anger, going through all those different stages that they've had to go through. How do we, and a lot of it is, I always tell, sometimes I see my patients, and as women, we tend to stuff everything inside and keep going till it gets to the point where you got nothing else in there. You got no more room. And that's when it comes out. And we have to help unpack some of these things. So that's a lot of it, is teaching these positive coping strategies. The other areas that we deal with in integrative and psycho-oncology that's never asked, or is that forgotten question, is about sexuality. And that's an important part of our relationships. That's something that's never asked of our patients sometimes. We've had surgery on sexual organs. You're on medication that's blocked all your estrogen and either decreased your libido or made sex painful. So there's a whole other area that comes along with who we are as women and our femininity that we need to help our patients deal with also.
So do you want me to ask those questions, or are you just going to go ahead and talk about it?
Well, no, we know we have to deal with that. Like I said, look what society does for women in terms of bodies. And then we've got these issues going on with surgery or pain or swelling. And so we have to be able to help our women with that too. And you've had a couple that's gone through this traumatic relationship, or still going through this traumatic ordeal, and that partners has to switch from caregiver to lover and back and forth. And that's a tough on that relationship. So that's where we were talking about earlier, where sometimes the patients don't want to put more on that partner, but we've got to be able to build that relationship back and an intimacy back.
And so your solution for that is what? To just truly try and talk about it openly between the couple, or to come and see someone in integrative oncology?
Both of it. We got to do something. We got to build back that relationship. We got to help try to mitigate those side effects that are leading to some of that sexual dysfunction. And we got to really work on that relationship, because it has totally different dynamics now that you're in this setting.
Yeah, let's talk about sex, baby, right? That's what it's.
That's right.
Let me ask you too, Dr. Bailey-Dorton, what is there, all of this sounds really great. Is there data or evidence that actually shows the benefits of these programs?
Yeah, so we've actually published some data about how our acupuncture can help with the joint pain or the hot flashes or sleep. There was a study that was published, it's an older study, it was back in 2009, that specifically looked, the title of the article is Survival Impact of Integrative Cancer Care in Advanced Metastatic Breast Cancer. And in the study showed that it almost doubled the survival time. exercise, all these other things that are brought into it, did that make a difference alongside standard care?
And it did, it looked like, okay. We're getting some questions in, so you guys, thank you. Continue to ask your questions under sessions Q&A. This participant would like to know how they're dealing with the pandemic in regards, let me read it from my phone. How are you dealing with the pandemic in regards to extra caution when having to go out into society, and also the extra physical and mental strength? Because obviously this world right now, the past 7 months have been hard on all of us, and many of us are not even fighting cancer. So how does that play a role when you have this huge obstacle of cancer that you're living with, and then you add COVID into the mix and social distancing into the mix?
Let me start it out and then I'll let our thrivers talk. Chronic stress plays a role in our health. When someone is chronically stressed, they're not eating, they're not sleeping, they may be drinking more than they should, they're eating the wrong foods. And so we've got to help people learn how to turn that stress response off, whether that's yoga, meditation, exercise, bringing joy into your life, doing something that's fun. How do we get back? We're never going to get away with the stressors, but we certainly got to be able to turn that stress response off. So I don't know how our thrivers, what they're doing in terms of that.
Dar, you'd unmuted yourself first. You go ahead, and how do you answer that question?
Whenever COVID first hit, I had to cancel. I'd been to 49 in the 50 states, and I had a trip planned for Alaska, and I had to cancel it. And I kept thinking in my head, I don't know if I feel good now. I don't know how long I'm going to feel good enough to travel like that. And so it was a very different process I was going through than my other friends who didn't have metastatic breast cancer, because I'm looking at it as this isn't just for this period of time. This might be for the good part of my lifetime, So I did struggle a lot with that. I worked with my oncologist on what activities he felt were okay for me to do, and how I could adjust some things so that I could feel like I was living instead of just marking time in my life. And one thing that I've been doing is my husband and I have started doing a Saturday night date night, and we turn it into a whole extravaganza. We just did an Oktoberfest, and we do it here at home, most of the things that we do. And we decorate and we make a meal and we take pictures and post it up, a whole story on Facebook. And we've started doing that most Saturdays in order to, it's sort of a combo thing. It's helping the relationship, but it's also making us feel like we're doing something special, because I don't go out to restaurants at this time. My medication has lowered my white blood count, so I don't go to restaurants.
To bring joy, as you tied back to your first answer. Stephanie, how has COVID impacted you with this, and how do you suggest people sort of come up with ways to not let that be such a huge stress?
Well, I think like Dar was saying, have those fun things that you still do with the people you care about. For me, I've just I've enjoyed spending time with my family more than I normally get to. So that's helped for me. And for me personally, I try not to be in crowded areas and things like that. But I've gotten to spend more time with my family, so that's been nice. But at the same time, I still continue to get outside and do whatever it is I might be doing that day. I usually try to stay pretty active, so that's helped. That's helped me.
But it sounds like for you, Dar, and Stephanie and Charmaine, I'll be interested to hear your answer too, but there is extra caution, and you must practice the extra caution. Yeah. Right now, the pandemic can almost become like you believe in it or you don't believe in it. But if you have cancer, or you've been going through treatments, or you're constantly living with, it doesn't.
You don't have a choice.
You don't have a choice.
Right. If you feel one way about it, you don't really have a choice. Because I kind of went to my doctor, and I don't have low blood counts, thankfully. I'm blessed for that. But, I'm like, so I'm not at high risk. She was like, yeah, you are. And so, I was like, well, okay, I'll do what I'm supposed to.
Yeah. Well, because it's hard, people, it's an inconvenient thing, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
inconvenient to be quarantined. It's inconvenient to have to go through with it. Charmaine, what's your answer to that question? I'll read it again. I'd like to know how they are dealing with the pandemic in regards to extra caution when having to go out into society, your extra physical or mental strength. How are you dealing with that?
Well, I don't call it extra caution because I've always been this way. You know, I'm from New York. It was always full of germs. So even when I used to travel public transportation, I always had some kind of sanitizer wipes. I was always, you know, disinfecting things. And then when I got diagnosed with breast cancer, you know, it took it up another notch. You know, I had to be careful because your immune system can go down, you know, prior to, you know, you got to keep that up so you can have your chemo. And then when the pandemic started, then it just took it up to a whole nother level, you know, just always disinfecting and keeping hand sanitizers and just being mindful. I never stopped, you know, doing what I love to do. I mean, when it all began, like in March, April, you know, I was you know, I became even more closer, you know, to my family, even though we were already close, but with myself and my boyfriend, you know, we always missed it. And at home, when he come home from his work, because he was an essential worker as well. So, you know, I got to spend quality time with my family. And thank goodness with Zoom, you know, I was able to connect with my family in New York and other places and friends. And then when my executive director asked, you know, who wanted to come out to the office, you know, because we were still working from home. So I was blessed with that, where we were taking calls and, you know, and providing the support that survivors needed. Then, you know, I took it upon myself to say, well, I will come into the Pink House. So we always kept this place disinfected anyway, because of the ladies who come visit us sometimes before treatment, after treatment, or during treatment. So, you know, I just did more deeper cleaning and sanitizing in order to be, you know, cautious for myself and for others. Yeah, that's what I did.
That's good. The extra caution wasn't really extra. It was just making sure you're still practicing.
That's it, still practicing it pretty much. Yes, it never
And
stopped.
a lot, you know, when I do these stories with people, and Dr. Bailey-Dorton, maybe you can chime in on this as well, but, you know, it's wonderful when you say, I can lean on my family or my spouse or my kids. There are a lot of people that live alone or that don't have a network built in. And I think when you talk about, Charmaine, the Carolina Breast Friends, or Dar, even your Facebook pages you started, finding networks, whether they're in front of your face or not, is really important. Do you find that when you're helping talk through some of this, Dr. Bailey-Dorton? Dr. Bailey-Dorton, I just mixed up the names.
Just whatever. You know, we've also found that when we had patients starting to come back into the office, how much of a deeper level of need it was, because they were isolated at home being safe. And all of a sudden it was just so much, it was almost cathartic for them to be there with somebody. We were glad to be there with them. It just ended up being a much deeper visit because they had such need. And we still have all of our classes on hold, our support groups on hold. They're all virtual, you know. And on the one hand, virtual is good because we can now go into people's homes to do visits and we have online yoga and exercise classes, but it's still not the same as a hug or, you know, sitting beside everybody. So it's feeling need, but it's not all the way feeling that need. But it is a big gap that we're seeing when people come in, they're extra needing that physical intimacy.
This leads right into the next question we just got. How risky would it be for me to travel to another state to visit family? I miss them very much, but I'm really worried about staying with them in their house. I'm sure you've had questions like that, Dr. Bailey-Dorton. What do you say
so,
to
you
people
know,
like that?
there's different levels of risk with how you're traveling. You know, air travel has a different level of risk versus you traveling in your own private car. You know, I think there's importance of having those people get tested and quarantining 2 weeks before you get there. So there are some safety measures in chemo. Wouldn't recommend traveling. You know, if you're further out with some proper precautions, I think you could do it. But once again, it depends on which state you're going to also. It depends on where the outbreaks are.
Is it for sure, like, don't do it if it's a plane? Because
it's just a higher level. It's just a higher level of risk. So they say, you know, on a plane, you don't want to have a mask, you want to have a face shield, try to get a window seat, try to be in the front of the plane. There are some things you can do to decrease the risk.
Yeah, I mean, I have no dog in the fight as far as, you know, I don't work for an airline, but I have had some
Right.
friends travel on airlines, and they say that there have been so many modifications. They have felt more
Yeah.
safe on a plane for what it's worth.
Right.
Then it depends what airline, I guess. But just as food for thought, I didn't know if you as a doctor had an opinion on that.
Yeah, because I've actually had to fly during this, and it was kind of interesting because, you know, there's like no service. You get your seat, that's it, and you get up and leave the plane. You know, they don't have the attendants coming through or anything like that. So I think we can be smart and, you know, masks work.
And that goes to the next question. It's like almost like you have my questions and you don't for those watching. She does not. This is just all jiving like this. The next question was, do those of us with metastatic breast cancer need to wear the cloth face masks, or do we need to use the N95 masks or KN95 masks?
Well, certainly N95 is the gold standard, but I think these other masks that we get, that you can get, are also just as effective.
Are they just as effective? You'd say that?
They're not as effective as N95, but they're going to be better than going out and some of the other stuff that's out there, the gaiters or some of the other things that are out there. And once again, it depends on where you're going with it. You know, are you going into a big crowd? Or are you going to the grocery store? Are you going outside? Where are you going with it? The risk level.
Okay. And the cloth ones, I know you just held up the ones that we kind of see in all the stores for free.
Right.
The cloth ones are better or worse than those?
They're about, I think the cloth ones are a little bit less than the surgical mask, but they're still better than the thin ones that people are pulling up around their neck.
Oh, like the cool bandanas I'm going out hiking out west. Okay.
Exactly.
Let's talk fashion. Okay, let me see. There was another question that I think we kind of hit on, but I want to make sure I ask it so the person who asked it knows that we received it. It was, what role does exercise play in boosting mental health for those living with MBC?
I think it's huge. I'll let our panelists answer too, but I think it's huge. We do know that exercise can help with sleep. It's going to help with that tough weight gain that we get through therapy. It's going to help. Of course, I guess you have to back up and say, do you enjoy the exercise or not? If you hate going out and doing it, it's probably not something you should do. But if it's something you enjoy, it is going to help you do that. We can also, like I said, it's been shown to decrease risk in the beginning of breast cancer. So I think it's important. I don't know what our thrivers have to say.
Go ahead, Stephanie, you chimed in first. Well, you were going to, and the mute was off.
So for me, yoga, I like to do yoga, is my favorite. And I think it's like that, but it's also good for me because it helps my mind kind of rest of other things, because I'm more focused on relaxing and exercising than the stresses that are going on around me. So it kind of gives me a minute to step out of that.
Go ahead, Dar.
I hate exercise. I'm going to be real honest here. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But I know it's something that I need to do. So what I've done is come up with a regimen that works for me. I love listening to podcasts. So I walk, and that's whenever I listen to podcasts. And I use it also because I do like to do some meditation type things. And I use it as I'll listen to some very calming meditation kind of things and take my walks. And so I feel like a lot of times taking a walk to me just feels like, you know, it's just exercise.
I was going to say, walking counts, Dar.
I know, but I don't like to do it, so I wasn't doing it. And then I started to combine it with something, so I feel like I'm accomplishing something. I like, you know, I keep bullet journals and I like checking stuff off. And so this way I could, you know, listen to my podcast or do some meditation as I'm walking at the same time. So I'm getting my exercise in that way.
And it distracts you from the exercise if you're doing something else.
You know,
I
end up enjoying it.
Charmaine, what's your take on that, exercise and staying active?
I'm with you, Dar. Listen, I don't exercise at all. But I do, like you said, Dr. Chasse Bailey-Dorton, walking counts. So I walk as much as I can in my neighborhood whenever I feel like it. During the summertime, it just usually be too hot. You know, I would try to, it has to be a real cool night, because with the hot flashes and the heat and trying to exercise, that's not a good mix for me. And then, or if I, you know, was doing my essential runs, I will park further away from the store. So, and then I'll get my walks in that way. And so that's how I make up for, and I do stretches, and I don't do any kind of yoga or none of that stuff. I do meditation, but just quietly at home. But other than that, no special exercise regimens for me. I'm sorry.
That's why I've
No
learned.
reason to
That's why I've learned
apologize.
to ask the question, how to ask the question, about physical activity versus exercise. And it's funny for me, exercise was kind of how I hung my survivorship. I called it going from bald to buff. I mean, for me, it was so important every day to have that. To knew I was doing something to help myself. So, but everybody's different. When walking counts.
Did
And being
watch what I
honest
eat.
counts.
I did watch what I eat. I eat in small. I stay away from sugar. So as far as what I eat, and I make sure that I eat good and stay hydrated, drink a lot of water. So for me, I felt good about doing stuff like that. So
I love the honesty. The honesty so good from all of you guys. I just want to give us a time check. We have about 10 minutes left, and I have a couple more questions coming in. And for those who are wondering, the baby's finally asleep, so I don't need to bend over and show you like my bad roots. Have to go to the hair salon soon. So, okay, I've been experiencing, and I'm going to apologize in advance if I mispronounce this. And Dr. Bailey-Dorton, you can correct me. Sciatica, Sciatica. Sciatica. I've been experiencing sciatica. Is there any issue with chiropractic and bone meds?
Yes. You have to be very careful with bone met. Depending on where that met is, how big that met is, people are at increased risk for fracturing the bone. And the bone can fracture without really doing anything. So you'd have to know exactly where the mets are, how many mets they are, and how stable they are. I would say try physical therapy for the sciatica first. There's a lot that can be done with physical therapy.
What is it, sciatica? What does
It's
that
an
mean?
inflammation of the sciatic nerve that comes out of the lower back. It'll have like pain in the buttock, or that will sometimes run down the leg also.
Oh, okay. That's good to talk about then. And this is more of a comment, and it's a little bit long, but I think it's important for all of you guys to hear it because Janet wrote and said, I wanted to thank you all, first of all, so much for your wonderful sharing. I am struggling with the loss of many things that I used to love to do, things that defined me as a person due to the permanent damage caused by cancer treatments. I have bone pain, neuropathy, a bad tremor, and some major heart issues that have curtailed my previously active life, and I can no longer swim laps, hike, paint, draw, sing, or play guitar. I can't even read a story aloud to my grandchildren. How do you all cope with changes like this? She said she's tried taking on new things like meditation and exercise online, but she's still feeling a loss. And I know that you guys we've sort of talked about this, but when you hear it from one person's own testimony, it might hit a little harder or jog your memories to maybe give some more suggestions to Janet. And Janet, thank you so much for sharing that and for acknowledging your situation while thanking the panelists for being on here, because it isn't easy always to talk. Could you guys hear me through all that? Sorry, I think I muted myself at the end. Go ahead, Dar, you're unmuted.
I struggled with that because my husband and I are clowns, and we do clowning for volunteer organizations, and we do a lot with like Make-A-Wish and then Give Kids a World, but that was with small children, and my oncologist said he didn't want me in close quarters with those kids, that many, like lots of kids. So I had to do. And so I really felt a loss. And so I just started thinking of other things I could do. And that's where like a lot of these Facebook groups came from, is because I needed something that I wouldn't have to be as physically active. Whenever I was having those big fatigue days, there'd be something that I could keep doing. And one day I just started doing some watercolor painting. I never did it before, and now I love it. And now I make cards for people all the time, and we'll just drop off little, like you were saying, Dr. Bailey-Dorton, doing something for someone else. I'll just do little cards and stick them in their mailboxes, and just to brighten their spirits for the day. But it really does probably more for me than it's doing for them. But it's something I can do whenever I'm having a low energy time. And so I really took some time to think about what can you do. I knew what I couldn't do. I had to rethink, what can I do?
And I think just the mental part of it is what Janet's also saying. She's struggling with the loss of a lot of it. Charmaine or Stephanie, do you have anything to add? If not, I'll go to Dr. Bailey-Dorton to see what she said. And it's great if you guys do, and it's okay if you don't.
For me, and of course, I was 23 when everything started, but I danced all my life. Like, I grew up dancing, and even as an adult, I taught at a local dance studio. But I got to a point where my body wouldn't allow me to do that any longer. So for me, I found other things that made me happy. Dance made me happier than in anything that I've found yet, but I feel like I've lost that, but I hope one day to be involved again, just to it was just a big release for me to do those things, and it's something I really enjoyed. So I feel a loss for that, but like I said, I like to be outdoors in nature. So that's kind of helped me cope and move on to do new things.
Okay, and Charmaine, if you don't have anything to add, that's okay. We have one more question, and I want to get to Dr. Bailey-Dorton, but if you do, please chime in.
Well, I really don't have anything to really add, because I'm not at that, point right now where I'm limited to not doing things that I love doing. I know, I can't go long days like I used to, I always will have to take a nap, because I do get tired, a little fatigue kick in every now and then. But that's pretty much, I just get the much needed rest, as far as me on how I cope with the little fatigue that I get from running, doing things here and there. So that's what I just try to do more, just sit down and relax and just take a nap. That's what I do.
And Dr. Bailey, how do you mentally deal with the loss when everything that defined you is sort of taken away?
And that's what Janet is describing. She's describing grief over the loss of her health and maybe the loss of her identity. And that's where some of that Psycho-Oncology comes in and helps her work back through that. And the other thing I talk with folks is, what we focus on increases. So if I'm focusing on something good, then I notice something else is good, and I know something else is good. If I focus on what I can't do, then I notice something else I can't do and something else I can't do. So some of it is helping her learn how to first grieve through that loss, and then how to figure out to refocus and build on what she can do.
This is the last question. It should be a quick one for Dr. Bailey-Dorton, and then we're going to have Tony close us up. But she said she's on Xeloda, Xeloda. How do I pronounce that one?
Xeloda.
Xeloda. Okay, sorry. See, a lot of learning here. But I'm on Xeloda and dealing with hand-foot syndrome, so I have to limit the time spent on my feet, standing or walking. I do chair yoga and some floor yoga. Is it safe for me to swim at the gym? Any ideas?
So it depends on how bad the hand-foot rash is. Certainly the chlorine can certainly irritate it. We've had some studies and Integrative come out looking at using some vitamin E to help with this. But yeah, I would be very safe and cautious with that. But we do have some different lotions and creams and vitamin E supplements we found some help with for that. And Xeloda is a great Scrabble word too, if you ever need it.
I know a lot about breast cancer. Every woman behind me, I guess you might know my story, but my mom, I said, passed away from it. But my grandmother was also a survivor, and my great grandmother died of breast cancer long before we were allowed to say the word breast in public, right? And yet I've never heard two of the words that we've had questions about today. So I feel very educated. This has been a great hour.
You kind of point something else I'm going to throw in real quick is that
yes,
as women, when we go through this diagnosis or it's in our family, we then worry about our daughters. And so we're always trying to help. We're always trying to help our patients. When we share with them risk reduction strategies, we want them to share that with their family members, because the overall arch here is loss of control. So we want to give as much control back. We want to give evidence-based things that someone can do to decrease their risk of recurrence. And I always say that perfect storm includes nutrition, body weight, physical activity. I didn't say exercise, physical activity, sleep, certain supplements, stress, environmental toxins, spirituality, and relationships.
That's like the perfect way to wrap up the hour. That was great, Dr. Bailey-Dorton. I'm going to thank you guys, Dar and Stephanie and Charmaine, and of course, Dr. Bailey-Dorton, and everybody watching. I don't know if you guys know this, but the screens that we're seeing as the panelists do not see all of you. So I don't know who's out there, but whoever you are, thank you for participating. And with that, I'm going to send it back to Tony Lee with Komen Charlotte and have her wrap us up. And I know, Tony, this is being recorded, so
Yes, that's correct, Molly. Thank you. We will post the link in Whova. And so for anyone who wasn't able to join us during the live event, or if you just want to watch it again, you can go back into the Whova platform and watch the video. And we'll also post a link on our YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone. That was great. I'm so amazed and inspired by your stories. And thank you, Dr. Chasse Bailey-Dorton, for sharing your expertise with us. And we love having our guest visitor, Molly's baby, with us today. So thank you.
You just started crying. It was like perfect timing.
As we wrap up today's event, I would like to thank our sponsors one more time: Seattle Genetics, Pfizer, Eli Lilly, Walgreens, AstraZeneca, and our local sponsor, Immunomedics. Thank you for your commitment to finding the cures. Over the next 30 or 40 minutes, I encourage all attendees to visit these partners pages in the sponsor and exhibitor sections of Whova, which you can access through the menu on the left side of your screen. And also during this time, please feel free to engage with other attendees by posting in the community boards. We would love to hear where you're tuning in from, what your MBC journey has been like, and please feel free to share any resources that you have found to be helpful. These boards will be open 24/7 and will remain open and active throughout the remaining sessions in the MBC Impact Series. And then lastly, you'll receive a survey on today's session to the email address that you registered for Whova with. So please take a few minutes to complete it, as your responses will help inform Komen's future MBC programming. And as a reminder, the next event in the series will be on October 27th, and it will be hosted by Komen, North Carolina, Triangle to the Coast from 3 to 5 p.m. And we hope you can join us here in Whova. The topic will be Young Researchers in Immunology, and the presenter will be Dr. Erica Crosby from Duke University School of Medicine. Thank you again to our panelists, Dar Finkelstein, Charmaine Tyson, Stephanie Drum, and to Dr. Chasse Bailey-Dorton. And thank you to our moderator, Molly, for helping us to host such a great event. On behalf of Komen Charlotte, thanks for spending part of your day with us, and we hope to see you at the next session. Have a good day.